Hello there, it's Shalendra here, and welcome back to our channel where we focus on growth. And today I want to talk about the subject of character strengths. You cannot grow unless you understand your character strengths. And character strengths are the positive attributes that we have to ourselves that make us stand out and be unique at what we actually do. Each and every one of us has strengths, and there is several writing that actually focuses on explaining that strengths, like taking a strengths focused approach to life brings more growth, brings more success, more thriving, more flow states, because focusing on our weaknesses just only drains our energies. And it's just the concept of diminishing returns. If I'm going to work on something that I'm excellent at, that means the more I improve it, I'm going to be outstanding. If I work on something that I'm terrible at, as I improve it, I can only be less terrible. So do you realize how much effort I have to put in for me to even get to that space of excellence? So I've had the privilege to be involved in several job interviews. And one of the questions that's always asked is, tell us about your strengths and your weaknesses. And I've been involved, I have actually witnessed people that give the most unoriginal, overdone, like rehearsed answers, like I am, talking of weaknesses, I am a perfectionist because I always expect people to do more than I can get. That's sort of like a Google answer, or maybe Chat GPT answer, because you go online and you Google, what are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? And those are the things that you find. When it comes to strengths, I've had people say, I'm a hard worker, or I'm a team player. You know what? That doesn't give us insight into the person that you are and into even the strengths that you have, because that is definitely rehearsed. So right now I want to give you 2 pointers on how you can actually answer these questions a lot better. The first thing is to understand your strengths. When interviewers ask you, or when you think and reflect by yourself, what are my strengths? The point is for you to have a bigger insight into who you are. It's for you to give a bigger insight into who you are to the people that are interviewing you. And unless you do that very well, you will not be able to impress or even to be better than the next person that is on the queue to be interviewed after you. So you need to have, number one thing is understand your real strengths. And this is a part of self-awareness. Understanding your real strengths is something that comes with self-awareness and actually self-mastery. So there is one of the best strength measures, well researched and actually evidence-based, is the values in action character strengths test, which was developed by Dr. Seligman and Christopher Peterson. And they developed this test in line with what they call the 6 character strength groups. And to understand more, follow through the link that is in the video description below. But I would like to give you one example, of what the character strengths group can be. One example of what the character strengths groups can be, and that's wisdom and knowledge. If you have strengths that fall in that category, you're more likely to speak something like, I have great wisdom and knowledge. And that comes out as a great strength in everything that I do. It helps me to analyze situations critically and make sound decisions and come up with great solutions to problems. My unique problem-solving ability and decision-making abilities have been reflected in my ability to make decisions in my previous role. So now I'm going to give you the second part to it. Do you see that this person has great understanding into their skills and into even their strengths, but you need to demonstrate it now. How has it shown in your career life? In my previous role as an operations manager, we were alerted to the decrease in reviews of our products, and there were actually some appalling reviews about how the quality had gone dismally low. So we decided that we need to improve the reviews and get it back to the standard that it was. So I went through the production process, and while my colleagues were saying maybe the people who were on shift that night when that batch was produced were just tired, others were saying maybe the issue is the machinery is old, and other people were saying the quality of raw materials that we used was old. I decided to actually analyze the whole production process so that I could come up with a substantiated reason to why the quality of our products had gone low. So I went through the production process. I checked the staff that were on duty. I checked what happened before. I checked if anyone had worked increasing hours of overtime, and I realized that was not the problem. I checked the raw materials, and I realized the suppliers we've always had have been supplying the raw materials, and they had all gone through the quality checks that we go through. And then I realized the machines had been serviced the previous week. But then I also went into looking at each and every one of the machines, and I realized that the one machine actually had not been recorded as serviced out of the 7 machines that are in the production line. So I just told people that, you know what, I think this was skipped by the service guys. And it turns out that was the reason for the low quality of products and ultimately the low reviews. So with this, I saved the company a lot of money because then our reviews were bound to start increasing. I also made sure that we did not get into the costs of firing and rehiring new employees that were not necessarily needing to be rehired. All right, so let me break down that response for you. The first part there, I spoke about the situation. The situation was the reviews were going low. The task was for us to improve the reviews of our product. And then the action I took was to do a great critical analysis of the production process. The result was that we found where the problem is and our reviews were to go much higher. Okay, so what I did there is to couple the strength that I have as a wanting to be a new operations manager for this role that I'm interviewing for, and I coupled it with the STAR method of concise communication, the STAR method of concise, or maybe the STAR strategy of concise communication. The S stands for situation, T is the task, A is the action, and R is the result. So when you're demonstrating your strengths, it's important for you to actually understand what your strengths are, and secondly, to communicate it in the most concise manner that is possible, and I would suggest the STAR method. So yeah, that's a very simple way of communicating your strengths. All right, so I have explained there the 2 important aspects that you need to always pay attention to when reflecting on your strengths to yourself or even to people that are asking you, for instance, in a job interview. You need to always understand what your strengths are. And number 2, you also need to know how to communicate them using the STAR method, because then that demonstrates that you are really strong in that area and you have tried it before, like the operations manager example that I gave you earlier. So before I go, I just want to highlight that understanding the strengths that you have from a strengths group perspective is very important. The strengths groups that have been clearly researched on by the VIA strengths are 6 of them, and it's important for you to understand which group of strengths is actually required in this situation of the job interview. For instance, the wisdom and knowledge group of strengths is required for somebody who's going to be making operation decisions. They have to rely on the previous knowledge that they have to use wisdom, they have to critically analyze, solve problems, and make quick decision on the whim. So if wisdom and knowledge are not part of your top strengths, then you need to work on that if you're going to take on a role that's something like that. But you also realize you're probably going to be a managing director or program director rather of a nonprofit organization, and you are working mainly on understanding issues around humanity. You need to emphasize the strengths group of humanity. You need to talk about how ethical you are and how you're always actually seeking to connect with people from a heart-to-heart perspective. So look out for the next video that I'm going to explain these strengths groups in detail, and you will understand what sort of strength groups your top strengths actually lie in. And remember to go in the description below to take your strength survey and see which strengths you are actually great at, like, and then that will help you to understand yourself more for yourself's sake, and also for the sake of any future roles that you may want to be involved in. Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next video.